The views and opinions expressed on the Hard Time Podcast are of the hosts and guests individually. The Hard Time Podcast is for entertainment purposes only and is not affiliated with any entity, agency, or department. Human beings have thoughts and feelings that do not necessarily affect the professional performance of their duties.
Welcome once again to the Hard Time Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Motherfucker Welder Esquire, the profane one. Walking confrontation, the host, perennially here, the one that's with you for through thick and thin. Sergeant somewhere in the American Southwest, and just been spending some time with the family on days off here. Maybe just a little more restful than usual. Spent some time with my kids outside. Just they said they wanted to play outside for a little bit. Just doing some projects around the house and stuff, and you can probably hear them in the background, just being little hooligans. So, apologize for the background noise, but they are difficult to control this time of day. So I'm trying to get a couple episodes recorded of Hard Time, so not waiting till they go to bed this time. Just trying to get a little bit ahead on the recordings. So gonna see if I can batch record a couple of these. So if you have any ideas for episodes, let us know. I did some research the other day. It's been, getting towards the end of the year 25, beginning of the year 26. Been kind of slow at work overall. We've had people with personality differences and stuff, a couple difficult inmates that we've been dealing with. But other than that, admin's been out. So, a lot of people with normal jobs this time of year when they take time off. So like admin and a lot of the support people and stuff take time off. So I spent extra time, answering phones and emails and things like that. So the radio never stops, and the phone calls and stuff from the units continue, but I get calls coming in from outside. Those calls increase. So I got a call from the state, from an outside agency, and they were like, one of the many incoming emails. I was in the back dealing with something, just got back to my office, and as I'm walking into my office, I get a phone call, and they're like this email, they had a question and about something that's going on Monday, and it's like, Friday afternoon, just before the new year. And I'm like, well, everybody's off because it's just before the new year. Everybody took off. And they're like, well, they have this question about what's going to happen Monday. And I said, well, if it can't wait till Monday, I can take a look and see if I can answer the question, but everybody's out. Like, I'm the only one here. They're like, well, they need an answer to the question. I said, okay, but you realize I can look into it for you and try to get an answer for you, but I'm running the entire jail while I'm trying to answer their question and do these other things. So just give me a minute. Let me look into it for you and see if I can find an answer for you. So I was like, I can respond to the email now that I found the answer for you. Like, no, I'll let them know. It's like, okay, it's something that probably could have waited till Monday, but they're like, got their panties all in a twist about it. It's like, Jesus Christ, people. Like, they're like, don't they know that when we send stuff to this email, this email is like Goes out to all the supervisors, goes to administration, goes to everybody. They're like, aren't you monitoring that email? It's like, yes, but I'm running the jail. So when I'm in the back, I'm not looking at my email. Like, I don't have all my devices on me when I'm in the jail. Like, I don't have it on me 24/7. I'm not sitting at a computer. So when I'm, dealing with a situation between officer and inmates, or mediating between two inmates or whatever, I'm not sitting behind a computer. I'm in the jail dealing with that. So if it's an answer that requires me to get to a computer and to get to Outlook or a calendar or whatever, then I need to get back to a terminal to answer your question. So it takes a minute. So they're just like getting all hopped up, and it's like, calm down, people. Like, this is a office question. Like, it's fine. People get all worked up. It's like, it's not life and death. But we got their question answered. Nobody died. Nobody died in the jail either, so we're good. We've moved on to bigger and better things. So we just had episode drop 2 with Street Tales. I shared that on my Instagram and stuff. They shared a bunch of stuff with us. I should have done a link directly to the podcast, but I failed in doing that. So drove traffic probably to Instagram, but not necessarily to the podcast. So, but I, hopefully it drives a little bit of traffic for the podcast. Gets people interested in what we got going on here. I thought the interview went fairly well. So if you haven't checked that out, you can. Just trying to bring a little bit of awareness to that kind of stuff, to the stuff that we do as corrections officers, as sergeants. People don't realize the role that people in corrections have, and that there's a lot more to it than I think, road officers, kind of had no idea, like, the behind the scenes role that, like, people in corrections have, and how it affects, what happens to people after that initial contact, and how long lasting that effect can be for people in the juvenile justice system or adult justice system, and how that role, how many things can be affected by what we do. So it was an interesting conversation. They had a lot of good questions. Looking forward to maybe doing another collaboration or two with them in the future. So we'll see how that pans out. Talked about doing at least one, if not 2 more collaborations in the future with them. So we may do that here in the future, maybe sometime here in 2026. So but yeah, we are as far as hard time, I think everything should be chugging along just as it has for 2026. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, commit to doing too much more than we have been at this point. I'd like to, but it just seems like every time I try, things get in the way. Life finds a way of getting in the way. So, going to continue to chug along. I need to, do more with shorts and cutting up episodes and stuff like that, and maybe do some more stuff like John did, some of those special episodes. Get the listeners and stuff more involved. Maybe we should do some more stuff like that, but maybe do a live here or there, get people involved, and we can schedule those ahead of time so you guys can be involved. I think that would be nice. I just don't know if I can do it as a weekly thing or not yet. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. Next few weeks, I'll know more with my schedule how things will work out for myself, anyways. So, man, that was 10 minutes of me blabbering on just about personal stuff and the jail and how things are going without even getting into our the meat and potatoes of our episode. So, um, the job, working in corrections is something that um, is a job that can be very dangerous. It's not something that we think about a lot because the if you do your job correctly, the exposure to weapons and stuff should be minimized. Um, you know, you think of it as, walking a beat it should be a job that fairly safe, should be fairly safe if everybody's doing their job correctly and things are going well. But the problem is people don't. And there's a lot of contraband that goes in, and there's a lot of contraband that's manufactured, and it can be extremely dangerous. And, working a beat where, a lot of people hate you and you're outnumbered and stuff, it can be extremely dangerous. So, a lot of people argue it's a lot more dangerous than police work. Um, and we're going to consider a couple articles, a couple officers that made the ultimate sacrifice in you know in doing their jobs. So the first one's out of Ohio. This is a Ohio correctional staff says they ignored threats from inmate before officer's death. So there's a lawsuit. The widow of Officer Andrew Lansing said the inmate had repeatedly violated rules and threatened violence without consequence. So this from Columbus, Ohio. Jay Swigert, the Lima News, Ohio. Columbus, the wife of prison guard who was killed on Christmas Day 2024 at Ross Correctional Facility at Chillicothe has filed a lawsuit at the Ohio Court of Claims seeking punitive damages against the state for failed policies she claims contributed to her husband's death. Chun Wong Lansing is seeking damages in excess of $25,000 as a direct and proximate result of ODRC's failure to fulfill its contractual obligations. Her husband, Andrew Lansing, a guard at RCI, died December 25th, 2024, after he allegedly was attacked by inmate and Lima resident Rashawn Cannon. Lansing's wife filed the lawsuit against the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction on December 24, one day before the anniversary of her husband's death. The suit alleges that ODRC knew or should have known that Cannon previously had threatened to kill her husband and that the institution was negligent in failing to raise Cannon's inmate classification despite years of violence and violence violations of rules and threatening to kill another individual. Mrs. Lansing claims the staff at RCI failed to protect its employees and incarcerated persons, and that ODRC failed to enforce staffing requirements of the safe operation of the prisons of Ohio, including Ross Correctional. Let's see. According to the suit, Cannon was classified as level 3 inmate and had committed numerous infractions while behind bars in his 2023 conviction on charges of felonious assault and illegal possession of a firearm. Cannon was found out of place at RCI, instigated and perpetuated fighting, was disobedient of direct orders, threatened to beat his cellmate, and was found in possession of illegal narcotics, the suit claims. In March 2024, Andrew Lansing conducted a routine shakedown of Cannon's cell and found a significant amount of pre-cut K2, a synthetic cannabinoid, as well as an improvised alcoholic beverage prohibited at RCI. Lansing filed a conduct report against Cannon, but Institution Infractions Board did not review or make any determination of the inmate's conduct, the lawsuit claims. Jesus. On April 1st, the suit further alleges Cannon was initially denied access to make a phone call. Lansing was permitted the phone call later that day, and Cannon became loud and aggressive during the call. When Lansing told him to quiet down, Cannon reportedly said, "Fuck you, I kill you." Lansing's only punishment, the suit alleges, was a 30-day phone restriction. So they didn't hold up a charge for K2 as well as Pruno that he had made, booze that he had made in his cell, and then didn't do anything about, well, gave him a 30-day phone restriction for a death threat. Jesus. Cannon, 28, was indicted by a Ross County grand jury in March on 3 counts of aggravated murder, each described in a court records as a special felony in connection with Andrew Lansing's death. He has pleaded not guilty, and a jury trial is scheduled for September 2026. Several policy and staffing changes have been instituted in the prison since Lansing's death, according to prison officials. I should hope so. An internal review of the incident concluded Ross Correctional Institution was fully staffed and personal alarm systems functioned at the time of the attack of Lansing, which took place at an officer station commonly known as the Tie Shack, located within the center core of the prison. A review of the incident shows the tragic murder of Officer Lansing was solely the result of Cannon's actions and not a lapse of policy compliance, according to the report. Cannon has since been transferred to the Ohio Penitentiary with a level 4 classification. So I wonder if I can find more on this. So it says this Channel 10 WBNS CBS. Authorities identified the inmate involved in the assault as Rashawn Cannon. He was transferred to a different facility while the investigation continues. This is the incident happened a Christmas morning at Ross Correctional Institution. Officials said Lansing died following an inmate assault at the high security prison in Ross County. In a press conference, the director, Annette Chambers Smith, said that Lansing, a father and husband, had volunteered to work overtime on Christmas. She said the attack occurred while Cannon was in his unit headed to the dining hall. She said Cannon veered off from his group to find Lansing in his guard shack in the middle of the prison yard. Chambers Smith said the building is not locked structure and is understanding that no weapons were used in the attack. It is her understanding no weapons were used in the attack. The Ohio State Highway Patrol identified the inmate as Rashawn Cannon, who was incarcerated on felonious assault with a weapon under disability charges. He was transferred to the Southern Ohio Corrections Institution while the incident is under investigation. Chambers Smith said that Lansing had written a conduct report on Cannon in April regarding bad behavior. The report had 3 charges on it: disrespect, threats, and disobedience of direct order. Cannon had been found guilty of 2 of those charges and brought against him. No additional charges of conduct were released. So they didn't bring up the original charges earlier on of the contraband that they didn't hold up. She called Cannon pure evil. She also said that the attack was brutal. And it quotes her as saying, "The loss of a staff person is difficult, but to lose a family member on Christmas Day at the hands of someone in her custody is a tragedy beyond comprehension," Chambers Smith said in a statement posted on the department's Facebook page. "Instead of going home after a shift to be with his family on this holiday, Officer Lansing made the ultimate sacrifice, and our agency will never be the same." Yeah, that's an understatement. That's pretty tragic. I can understand why the family is suing. For them, to say that they're making changes after the fact with regards to staffing, I don't know with that. I mean, I think um, it's a dangerous it sets a dangerous precedent with. I don't know if it would have prevented this, but it sends a dangerous precedent to not um, not support your officers. And this is why we say that classification is so important. Um, he, he should have been, the officer should have been supported. The classification of this person, he shouldn't have been just walking around, able to, walk to chow at this point. Um, this is not. He shouldn't have been able to just walk up to him and beat him to death. Sounds like just absolute tragedy that's what happened. Yeah, and he should have been better supported by his agency leading up to it. And I don't know why. Don't know the details because they haven't released them. I don't know the details of why he wasn't able to get out a call for help, or if he did, why they weren't able to get there in time. But I'm sure the feeling of helplessness from the other people in his agency has to be significant. That there wasn't more that they could do to try to help him in that situation, to be there to support him and to try to prevent that from happening, from him succumbing to an inmate. So there's, they're not releasing a lot of details, but there's like conflicting on reports on whether or not there was a weapon used. But yeah, they're not releasing a lot of details on that. But yeah, $25,000 is a paltry sum for the for a loved one. I'm sure they would much rather have him back. So may he rest in peace. I'm sure they would much rather have him back with his wife, but unfortunately, that's not the situation. So, unfortunately, we have another fatal situation in to cover in Virginia. This is Jeremy Hall. This was from December 29, 2025. Sarah Roebuck wrote this article. A widow's lawsuit seeks VA DOC policy changes following the corrections officer's death. Jeremy Hall's widow and current CO say known threats and understaffing went unaddressed before fatal incident. Richmond, Virginia. A federal lawsuit filed by the widow of Virginia Correction Officer Jeremy Lewis Hall alleges that longstanding staffing shortages, ignored threats, and systemic policy failures within the Virginia Department of Corrections contributed to his death at North River Correctional Center. The lawsuit, filed on behalf of Hall's widow, Dawn Hall, and current corrections officer Anthony Kellum, does not seek financial damages. Instead, they ask the court to order policy changes aimed at improving staff safety across VA DOC facilities. Hall was killed in the line of duty November 17th after an inmate attack at River North Correctional Center. Allegations of known risks and ignored warnings. According to the complaint, VDOC leadership was aware of critical vacancy rates throughout the department and the risk posed by chronic understaffing, but continued normal operations without implementing additional safeguards. The lawsuit names several defendants, including VDOC Director Chad Dotson, Chief Correctional Operations David Robinson, River North Warden Kevin McCoy, River North Captain Kevin Allen, and Indian Creek Correctional Center Warden Dara Watson, along with 20 unnamed supervisory officials. The filing describes Hall death as foreseeable and preventable, alleging it resulted from known specific and systemic risks at River North. As part of the lawsuit, plaintiffs cite a resignation letter submitted by then Lieutenant Jacob Murray on July 10, 2025, 4 months before Hall's death. In the letter, Murray warned leadership that staff safety was no longer a priority, and he wrote, "River North is headed down a dangerous path, and it will see staff severely injured, if not killed." Separate incident cited involving current officer. The lawsuit also outlines a December 2025 incident involving Officer Anthony Kellum, who was assigned to Indian Creek Correctional Center. According to the complaint, Kellum observed an inmate vomiting in his cell during a head count and reported the situation to supervisors. He was allegedly instructed to continue the count and disregard the medical concern. The inmate died later that day. The filing argues the incident reflects the unconstitutional pattern of prioritizing routine operations and administrative metrics over immediate safety concerns. Policy changes sought. Rather than damages, the plaintiffs are requesting the court-ordered reforms, including 1. Mandatory threat response protocols for credible threats against staff, including documentation, investigation, and timely separation of inmates and targeted officers. So, yeah, if you have a credible threat, document it, investigate it, and separate the officer from, that's should be the case if you have a credible threat. The problem is, weeding out a credible threat from a non-credible threat. That's the issue, but definitely should be done. Secondly, minimum safe staffing requirements or equivalent safeguards for high-risk housing units. You have safe staffing requirements or equivalent safeguards. So I would say if you don't have safe minimum staffing requirements, then you have to have some sort of modified safeguards. Like if you can't have enough for minimum staffing, then you have to modify you can't have like full open units, and you have to modify your operations. Third, prohibitions on assigning unqualified personnel or trainees to dangerous posts. Yeah. You can't just throw them to the wolves. Um, you have to like slowly work people into working posts and stuff. You can't just leave them on their own to work dangerous posts and stuff. Like you can't, as much as you want as a training officer, you can't just drop your trainee off at the fire station. You in a basket. You have to train them completely and then slowly work them in. It's kind of like with goldfish. You have to put them in the bag, float the bag in the tank first, and then slowly release them. 4, required pod searches, contraband sweeps, and inmate separation when credible threats are identified. So, required pod searches, contraband sweeps, and inmate separation when credible threats are identified. It's interesting they put those things together. Definitely pod searches, contraband sweeps, and then inmate separation when credible threats are identified. So they're saying, like, when you find something during these, that they need to separate the inmates. Yeah, when you can, put them in the hole or whatever, or put them on segregated and put them on a disciplinary. The thing is, it takes staff to be able to do the searches and stuff. It takes staff to be able to do the sweeps, unless you make it part of the shift, which takes time, which is fine. If you make that part, if you have the time to do that, you make it part of the schedule. That's something that can be done. So that's the 4th thing. And 5th, oversight, training, and auditing and compliance mechanisms to ensure policies are followed statewide. So they don't want it to, because just to have mouth service, lip service. They want to make sure that there's compliance and that people are following it throughout the state. So, unlike a lot of these types of things that you hear, a lot of solutions that are presented, it seems like these are a lot better thought out and sound like they're actually practical solutions, and they actually know what the fuck they're talking about. And they're like, let's make sure that this is actually going to be done. And they know what the tendencies are, and they've seen how in the past, even if you have something that works, the tendency is for things to go away over time. A policy change happens, and then it, with a changing of the guard, either whether that's, from a certain amount of people as far as training changeover, or changeover of officers over the years, or a changeover, enough of that changing over, or the changeover in your administration, that things go away. So having somebody that's checking up on it and making sure that there's compliance statewide is a good way to make sure that these things are actually done and followed through. So, I mean, kudos to them to, they're not putting a monetary amount on their loved one's life, which I've always thought, had like mixed feelings about. But this, if they're actually able to accomplish it, might actually do some damn good. They've actually thought it out really well if they're able to implement it. Great job. Widow releases statement about notification failures. Dawn Hall has also released a public statement for the first time detailing what she describes as significant communication failures following her husband's death. On the morning of November 17th, she said she received a missed call from an unknown number with no voicemail. Roughly 10 minutes later, her father-in-law called and told her there had been an incident at the prison and that she needed to go to the hospital. She arrived at the hospital at Galax around 9:05 a.m. and was informed that life-saving measures were still underway. At approximately 9:26 a.m., an emergency room physician told her husband had died. During this critical period, no official from the Department of Corrections contacted Miss Hall to inform her of her husband's injuries, their severity, or the circumstances of the incident, the statement said. Miss Hall later learned the attack occurred at approximately 7:53 a.m., more than an hour before she arrived, and that other facilities were notified before any official attempt was made to contact her at Jeremy Hall's listed emergency contact. She also described learning days later that a threat had been made against her, prompting a deputy to instruct her to leave her home for safety. She said DOC officials did not contact her regarding the threat. This was the last time Warden McCoy initiated contact with Miss Hall, the statement said. As a grieving widow who is not from this area and who has no local support system, I was left alone by the Department of Corrections and officials at River North Correctional during the most traumatic period of my life, Miss Hall said. Jesus Christ. I mean, I wish I could say that 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 people act differently during notification processes and stuff like that. But in my experience, my limited experience in dealing with that, they haven't. I've been notified of family members' deaths, and then been involved in the notification process, notifying different people, like just thinking of notifying, like in the case of family members, close family members, calling their work and letting them know that somebody had died, and just getting like rude responses from them. It's like, I just lost a really close family member, and I thought to call you guys as at work, their work, and then they're rude to me as the family member. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like, Jesus Christ. People are fucking awful in that moment. Like, I don't understand. We need to do better at that. Just as a race of people, like, I don't understand why people don't have a little bit more understanding. And sounds like this facility certainly needs to do better. VADOC response. In a statement provided to WCYB, VDOC said it could not comment on active litigation, but it emphasized its commitment to officer safety. While the VDOC cannot comment on active litigation, our agency is committed to honoring Master Corrections Officer Jeremy Lewis Hall's legacy of service and sacrifice in the line of duty. Sure sounds like it. The statement said the VDOC's top priority is the safety of our corrections team members and those in our custody and supervision and the security of our facilities. But fuck their family members, apparently. Dawn Hall said she remains grateful to the support she received from fellow officers, their families, and the community, but emphasized that the recognition alone is not enough. This is not about monuments, she said. This is about how families are treated in the aftermath of tragedy and ensuring that no other spouse learns about their loved one's death the way I did. Yeah. How about just doing better as a fucking human race? Jeez. But people are gonna people. I don't know why people can't seem to just do a little better. All right. Well, keeping up with the cheery disposition of this podcast, reality TV figure charged in jail killing to undergo competency evaluation. Chad Ollinger, a former reality TV cast member, is accused of strangling cellmate Christopher Kelly at Clark County Jail. So we moved on from no more dead COs. I'm done with dead COs for the evening. Las Vegas. A reality TV star accused of killing his jail cellmate in Las Vegas will undergo a competency evaluation. Chad Ollinger, 41, appeared briefly in Justice Court Tuesday morning after the discovery Friday of 42-year-old Christopher Kelly's death in the Clark County Detention Center. Your attorney has some concerns about your mental health, Justice said of the peace. Eric Goodman told Ollinger. They want you to go up and talk to the doctors. Ollinger is scheduled to appear in district court, which handles competency cases, on January 21. What is this guy supposedly known for? Oh, here. Discovery Channel reality show. Chad Ollinger. Oh, he's the guy from Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch. I didn't recognize him without his dreads and stuff. Okay. So he allegedly. Oh, here it is. Ollinger is scheduled to appear in district court, which handles competency cases, on January 21st. Previously, Ollinger and his father, Dwayne Ollinger, appeared in the Discovery Ranch series Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch, which premiered in 2021 and ended in August. The show followed Ollinger's hunt for gold in Aztec artifacts in the northeastern Utah property. The Metropolitan Police Department, which operates the detention center, said the news release that at about 11:20 p.m. Friday, correctional officers found an inmate lying motionless inside a cell with apparent blunt force injuries. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police said Ollinger and Kelly were both injured, Kelly with lacerations, abrasions, and contusions, and Ollinger with an abrasion and apparent scratches. Police said in the report that Ollinger killed Kelly by strangling and smashing his head into a bed frame. Good luck cracking the case, police told. Police said Ollinger told detectives who photographed him. Just before the discovery, really, of Kelly, Ollinger said he's not feeling good to officers, according to the report. Metro said Ollinger told detectives that he could recall almost no recent memories of his life and claimed he had supernatural power to read people. Chad eventually confessed to murdering Christopher, police wrote in the report. Chad said the killing was righteous. Kelly was in custody after stipulating to a probation violation in a theft case this September, which resulted in him receiving a 6-month jail sentence. State court records for Clark County do not show any sexual misconduct cases for Kelly. Records show Ollinger had been in custody since October 27th, faces charges for arrest for a fugitive from another state for contempt of court. Well, that's not good. I mean, you're good luck cracking the case. I mean, you're in the cell with the guy with the dead body. Doesn't exactly take Agatha Christie to figure out what happened there. Okay. NBC News has another story for us. A federal prisoner was shot dead in Florida in a rare gunfire behind bars. So you don't hear that very often. The family of Dwayne DJ Tottleman, an inmate at the Coleman Prison Complex, is demanding answers after learning he was killed. Guns are not typically permitted in prisons. This is true. An Illinois man was shot dead while incarcerated in a federal prison in Florida this month. His family and officials told NBC News, a rare incident behind bars, as guards typically are not allowed to carry firearms, at least not behind the jail walls. It's articles by Eric Ortiz and John Shoup. Loved ones of an inmate, Dwayne Tottleman, say they haven't received answers from the Federal Bureau of Prisons about how or why he was shot more than a week after his death, October 10th, at U.S. Penitentiary Coleman, a high-security men's prison in northwest Orlando. The BOP typically shares information of inmates' death in custody, but there was no immediate release about Tottleman. Agency's officials did not respond to requests for comments on the ongoing and federal government shutdown. So this was amid the government shutdown. That was part of the reason. The local medical examiner's office in Florida confirmed Tuttleman's fatal shooting to NBC News. Donna Ford, a longtime friend who said she's listed as next of kin to Tottleman, said the prison called her around 9 p.m. October 10th to tell her he had died. She said the official offered no other details. It came as a shock, she said, because she had spoken to Tottleman, who went by DJ that morning for about 15 minutes. Tottleman, 33, who had been serving 15 years for possession of methamphetamines with intent to distribute, related to an August 2020 traffic stop in St. Louis. He was in a good mood. He told me he loved me. He told me to send pictures of the kids, to give the kids hugs for me, Ford said of her children. He said, I miss you. I love you. There was no agitation. Well, that's the thing about people. They're fine right up until they're not fine. Tottleman's father, also named Dwayne, learned of his death from Ford the following morning and spoke with the medical examiner's office for Sumter County. He said he was in tears as he begged for information about his son's death. I was distraught. I didn't know if somebody stabbed him. I didn't know anything, the senior Tottleman said. He said the office told him his son was shot, but still left him with questions. Well, then, yeah, you still have questions, but they gave you more details than you had before. Trying to wrap my mind around how something like this could happen, he said. A prison spokesperson did not directly respond when asked about a deadly shooting at USB Coleman or an investigation into Tottleman's death. The prison website says visitation has been suspended until further notice. Usually there's lockdowns after major events like this. In response to NBC News questions, the prison sent an emailed statement saying the facility was placed on enhanced modified operations October 10th lockdown, and said wardens may establish controls and implement temporary security measures to ensure the good order and security of their institution, as well as ensure the safety of employees and individuals in our custody. Lockdown. In securing a facility, it was always the hope of security measures will be short-lived and the facility return to normal operations as quickly as possible, the statements added. Lockdown will be as long as they goddamn need. While there's a lack of reliable data regarding the deaths in prisons and jails, fatal shootings are uncommon because guns are not routinely given to secure the facilities, said Steve J. Martin, a corrections expert who has worked with the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division and use of force cases involving prisons. Prisons employees can only carry firearms when doing certain tasks, transporting inmates, preventing escapes, and guarding security posts, BOP policy states. Wardens must approve employees who carry guns. If you have weaponry inside, there's always the possibility it can get in the hands of an inmate, which is the last thing you want, Martin said. Besides, there's so much other non-lethal weaponry that can be used. It's true. BOP policy says that force against inmates should be a last alternative, and that deadly force may be used when there's a reasonable belief that the inmate poses an immediate danger of death or a serious physical injury in others. So, if you get shot, then you seriously probably fucked around and found out. Like, you don't just get shot in jail for no good fucking reason. So, if use of a firearm is deemed necessary, the employee must shoot at the subject with every intention of hitting the center mass to ensure the subject is stopped, the policy states. Employees will not attempt to shoot a limb, which creates a lesser chance of stopping the subject. It may pose a danger to employees, other inmates, or persons of the community. Shoot that fucker dead. Joe Rosas, a retired BOP officer and past union president at Coleman, said less lethal options may include stun grenades and pepper spray, as well as firing warning shots ahead of lethal force. Gunfire is rare at Coleman, Rojas said. A fight among inmates is more than 15 years ago led staff members to firing shots in the recreation yard. One inmate suffered a gunshot wound and several others were injured when prison officials said they ignored commands, according to reports at the time. The circumstances regarding Tottleman's death have baffled loved ones. Even if his son was violent before his death, the escalation to gunfire is troubling, Dwayne Tottleman said. When people get into fights in prison, they lose good time credit, he said. They don't lose their life. I feel like he did not really have a chance to learn to be on the right side of the law, Ford wrote. Well, maybe he shouldn't have fucked around. A grade school friend of Tottleman's who previously suffered from drug addiction told the judge, I have watched him struggle right along with me for the most of our lives. Toddleben had also been deeply affected by a police shooting in October 2020, his family said. An Illinois state police officer struck Toddleben in the back after he was hiding in the car and attempted to surrender, according to a civil rights lawsuit in which he sought $2 million pain and suffering. The officer said they believed he was armed, but Toddleben's lawyer, Jason Mars, said only a flashlight was recovered from the car. By late 2023, the suit was settled. The terms were not disclosed. As that litigation unfolded, a federal grand jury indicted Toddleben on methamphetamine charge in February 2021, but for reasons that are not clear in court records, he was not arrested until May 2021. Separately, he had been serving time in an Illinois prison for burglary. Sounds like child of the year. Toddleben said he had been substance abuse and mental health issues, had substance abuse and mental health issues, and described those along with a brain tumor as cause for his criminal behavior, a federal judge noted in 2021 court filing. He said he'd had the tumor removed and stopped using drugs. In June 2023, a month after his arrest, Toddleben's mother died of a drug overdose, Ford said. So he comes by it honestly. He has had hard times, but when I talked to him in the morning, he was completely fine, Ford said of their last conversation on October 10th. He did not say he felt like he was in danger. Toddleben's family members had started a GoFundMe to pay for legal support as they navigate understanding the situation that caused his death. Well, I'm going to leave you with a rare cliffhanger here on Hard Time. There's no update on the use of force in that incident, so we'll have to wait to see what the true story is, what the actual case was. So all we have are the complaints from the family about the case. Don't know what actually happened. We don't have the circumstances surrounding the shooting, the reason for it, the use of force, the reports, anything like that, the medical examiner's account or anything. So we're going to have to wait for anything official to come out. All we have is the family's account. So we know how reliable that is. The complainings and musings of a family that sides with a criminal. So that's all we have to go off of, people, unfortunately. So, but this wouldn't be an episode of Hard Time without a couple Jake jokes. So, my ex's cooking was so cold and bland. Clearly, she put her heart and soul into it. Oh, did I tell you I got fired from my job in Sweden? I was accused of taking stock home. Oh my goodness. What did the pirate name his pet clam? Michelle. I have a tendency to run around naked. So every morning I spray myself with Windex to prevent me from streaking. All right. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Hard Time. appreciate you guys sticking out to the end. Sorry it was such a downer this time, all about death on this episode of Hard Time. Should be an interesting thumbnail now that I get to go see how macabre AI is. But appreciate you all listening, and I'm going to say good night, Jake.